Derek Hartwell stared at the marriage certificate in his trembling hands, the Vegas Chapel logo still visible in the corner. His wife's signature was right there in black ink, next to someone named Elliot Torres. The date was 3 weeks ago, the night she claimed she was finding herself with her sister. The paper felt heavier than the steel beams he'd lifted for 15 years. "Son of a witch," he whispered, setting it down on their kitchen table. The same table where Layla had served him breakfast that morning, kissing his forehead like nothing had changed. Like she hadn't committed bigamy in a drunken stupor while he was home, fixing their leaky roof. Derek had always been the steady one, the provider, the man who came home covered in concrete dust and never complained about overtime. He'd built half the subdivisions in Phoenix, literally laying the foundation for other people's dreams, while his own crumbled in his calloused hands. The front door slammed. Layla's voice echoed from the entryway, high-pitched and animated. She was on the phone again, probably with that life coach who'd been filling her head with poison about authentic living and breaking free from limiting beliefs. "Girl, you should have seen the way he looked at me," Layla was saying. "Like I was some kind of goddess or something. I felt so alive, Brienne, for the first time in years." Derek's jaw clenched. He folded the certificate and slipped it into his work shirt pocket right next to his heart. The weight of it pressed against his chest like a brand. 3 hours earlier, he'd been a loyal husband. Now he was something else entirely. The transformation had started when Carson, his brother-in-law, had pulled him aside at the job site. Carson worked in hotel management and had connections throughout Vegas. What he'd discovered made Derek's blood run cold. "I didn't want to be the one to tell you," Carson had said, handing him a manila envelope. "But my buddy at the Flamingo sent me this, security footage from the chapel, time-stamped." Derek had watched the grainy video on Carson's phone. His wife of 12 years, drunk out of her mind, giggling as she signed legal documents. The bartender next to her looked equally wasted, but coherent enough to know what he was doing. "There's more," Carson had continued. "The rubber box I found in her luggage. It wasn't just used, it was from that hotel." The same night. Now Derek stood in his kitchen, listening to his wife laugh about her spiritual awakening with a woman who charged desperate housewives $200 an hour to destroy their marriages. His phone buzzed. A text from Carson. "I'm sorry, man, you need to know everything. Can you meet me at Murphy's bar after work? There's footage from the hotel hallway, too." Derek deleted the message and pocketed his phone. He'd seen enough for one day. Layla appeared in the doorway, her face glowing with the kind of excitement Derek hadn't seen in years. She'd lost weight since starting her empowerment journey, and her blonde hair was styled differently, edgier, more expensive looking. The transformation wasn't just physical. Something fundamental had shifted in her eyes. "Hey, baby," she said, barely glancing at him as she grabbed a bottle of wine from the counter. "How was work?" "Same as always," Derek replied, studying her face. "How was your day?" "Amazing. Absolutely amazing." She poured herself a large glass of Pinot Grigio. "Brienne and I had the most incredible session today. We talked about boundaries and self-respect and how women have been conditioned to put everyone else's needs before their own." Derek nodded slowly. "That sounds enlightening." "It really is. You know, I've been thinking about what she said about marriage being a patriarchal construct designed to control women's sexuality." Layla took a long sip of wine. "Maybe we should talk about opening things up a bit. Exploring other connections." The marriage certificate in Derek's pocket felt like it was burning through his shirt. "Other connections?" "Don't look at me like that," Layla said, rolling her eyes. "I'm talking about emotional growth. Expanding our horizons. You're always so serious about everything." Derek forced a smile. "I'm just trying to understand what you mean." "Forget it. You wouldn't get it." She headed toward the living room, wine glass in hand. "I'm going to do a live stream for my followers. Try not to interrupt." Derek watched her go, noting the way she moved with newfound confidence, the way she dismissed him like he was an inconvenience in his own home, the way she lied so effortlessly about Vegas while planning to lie about more. His phone buzzed again. This time, it was from his daughter Emma, away at college in Tucson. "Dad, Mom's been posting weird stuff on Instagram." "Everything okay?" Derek typed back. "Everything's fine. Focus on your studies." But everything wasn't fine. Everything was about to get much, much worse. Derek pulled up Layla's Instagram on his phone. She had 47,000 followers now, mostly women in their 30s and 40s, who hung on her every word about authentic living and breaking free from societal expectations. Her recent posts were full of inspirational quotes about courage and self-discovery. The most recent one, posted 2 hours ago, showed her in a silk robe with the caption, "Sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is admit you've outgrown your current situation. Growth requires space to breathe." #authentic living #. No apologies #women supporting women. The comments were predictable. Hundreds of women cheering her on, telling her she was glowing and inspiring. A few asked about her husband, wondering if he was supportive of her journey. Layla had hearted the comments that praised her independence and ignored the ones that mentioned Derek. Derek set his phone down and walked to the window. The sun was setting over their neighborhood, casting long shadows across the perfectly manicured lawns. He'd helped build half these houses, working 16-hour days to establish the construction company that now employed 12 men. His hands were scarred from years of honest work, his back ached from lifting heavy materials, and his face was weathered from Arizona sun. He'd never been the kind of man who demanded attention or praise. He'd simply done what needed to be done, day after day, year after year. He'd paid the mortgage, fixed what was broken, and loved his family with quiet consistency. But quiet consistency wasn't enough anymore. Not for Layla. Not for the woman who had married a stranger in Vegas and was now planning to explore other connections while living in the house Derek had built with his own hands. From the living room, he could hear Layla's voice, animated and confident as she spoke to her phone camera. "Ladies, I want to talk about something really important today, the difference between settling and thriving, between existing and truly living." Derek closed his eyes and made a decision that would change everything. The next morning, Derek woke up at 4:30 a.m. as usual, but instead of heading to the construction site, he drove to downtown Phoenix. He'd made 3 appointments, with a divorce attorney, a private investigator, and a forensic accountant. The marriage certificate was in a manila envelope on his passenger seat, along with screenshots of Layla's social media posts and bank statements showing her recent spending sprees. Attorney Mitchell Price was a shark in an expensive suit who specialized in complex divorce cases. His office overlooked the city from the 20th floor of a glass tower that Derek had helped build 5 years earlier. "Mr. Hartwell," Price said, reviewing the documents Derek had provided, "this is quite a situation. Your wife committed bigamy, which is a felony in Arizona. We could have her arrested." "I don't want her arrested," Derek said. "I want her exposed for what she really is." Price leaned back in his leather chair. "What exactly are you looking for here? Full custody? Maximum asset division? Spousal support termination?" "I want her to lose everything she values most," Derek said quietly. "Her reputation, her followers, her lifestyle. I want her to understand that actions have consequences." Price smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. "I like your thinking. Let's talk strategy." 2 hours later, Derek was in the office of Sandra Chen, a private investigator who specialized in marital infidelity cases. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and an impressive collection of high-tech surveillance equipment. "Vegas marriages are public record," she explained, pulling up information on her computer. "Your wife is now legally married to 2 men simultaneously. But there's more. I did some preliminary research on this Elliot Torres character." She turned her monitor toward Derek. "He's a bartender at the Flamingo, originally from California. No criminal record, but he's got serious gambling debts. He's been married twice before, both times to women he met at the bar. Both marriages ended in divorce within 6 months. You think he's running some kind of scam? I think he saw an opportunity and took it. Drunk woman, expensive jewelry, talks about having money. Classic setup." Sandra pulled up more files. "But here's the interesting part. He's been trying to contact your wife. Left 17 voicemails in the past week." Derek felt something cold settle in his stomach. What kind of messages? Desperate ones. Talking about their connection and how he needs to see her again. "He's broke, Mr. Hartwell, and he thinks your wife is his ticket to financial stability." Derek left the investigator's office with a recording device and a plan. The forensic accountant had been the final piece of the puzzle, helping him understand exactly how to protect his assets while exposing Layla's financial irresponsibility. He drove to the construction site where his crew was framing a new subdivision. The familiar sounds of hammering and power tools usually calmed his nerves, but today they felt distant and hollow. "Boss," called out Jake Morrison, his site foreman. "You look like hell. Everything okay?" Derek had known Jake for 8 years. The man was solid, dependable, and had been through his own divorce 3 years earlier. If anyone would understand, it would be Jake. "Can we talk privately?" Derek asked. They walked to Derek's trailer, a modest office space filled with blueprints and coffee-stained paperwork. Derek closed the door and handed Jake a copy of the marriage certificate. Jake studied it for a long moment, his expression growing darker. "Jesus Christ, Derek. She actually married someone else? In Vegas, 3 weeks ago, while I was home fixing the roof." Jake set the paper down and shook his head. "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to destroy her," Derek said simply. "Everything she's built, everything she thinks she is, I'm going to tear it all down." "You sure about this? I mean, maybe she was just drunk and stupid." "Maybe it doesn't mean anything." Derek pulled out his phone and showed Jake the Instagram post about outgrowing your current situation. Then he played part of the audio recording from the night before, where Layla had told her sister about the incredible connection she'd made in Vegas. Jake's face hardened. "Okay, what do you need?" "I need you to run the crew for a few days. I've got some business to take care of." "Whatever you need, boss. This is messed up." Derek spent the rest of the day making preparations. He opened a separate bank account and transferred half their savings, his legal right as a joint account holder. He changed the locks on his tool shed and garage, securing the expensive equipment that represented years of investment. He installed security cameras around the property and set up automatic cloud backups. Most importantly, he called his daughter Emma. "Dad, why are you calling in the middle of the day?" "I need to talk to you about something important," Derek said. "Are you somewhere you can speak privately?" "I'm in my dorm room. What's wrong?" Derek took a deep breath. "Your mother and I are getting divorced." Silence. Then, "What?" "Dad, what are you talking about?" "She's been having an affair." "Actually, more than that. She married someone else in Vegas." "That's impossible. Mom would never." "I have the marriage certificate, Emma. I have proof." Another long silence. "I don't understand." "You guys seemed fine when I was home for Christmas." "A lot can change in 3 months," Derek said. "I'm telling you this because I don't want you to hear it from someone else. Your mother is going through some kind of crisis, and she's making decisions that are going to hurt a lot of people." "Are you sure? I mean, maybe there's an explanation." "There's no explanation for bigamy, Emma. What she did is illegal." "Oh, God." Emma's voice was small. "What happens now?" "Now I protect what's left of our family. I'm going to file for divorce, and it's going to get ugly. Your mother has been building an online following by attacking marriage and traditional values. She's going to use this situation to make herself look like the sufferer." "What do you want me to do?" "I want you to stay focused on school. Don't get involved in the drama. Let me handle your mother." "Dad, are you okay? You sound different." Derek stared at his reflection in the trailer window. The man looking back at him was harder than he remembered. "I'm fine, sweetheart." "Better than fine. I'm finally seeing things clearly." That evening, Derek arrived home to find Layla in the kitchen, preparing for another Instagram live session. She'd set up professional lighting equipment and was wearing the kind of outfit that cost more than most people's monthly grocery budget. "You're home early," she said without looking up from her phone. "We need to talk," Derek said. "Can it wait?" "I'm about to go live in 5 minutes. I'm doing a session on recognizing your worth, and I've got over 300 people waiting." Derek pulled out a chair and sat down at the kitchen table. "Turn off the camera, Layla." Something in his tone made her look up. "What's wrong with you?" "I said turn it off." She rolled her eyes but switched off the lights. "Fine. What's so important that it can't wait 20 minutes? Derek reached into his pocket and pulled out the marriage certificate. He set it on the table between them. Layla went completely still. The color drained from her face. "Want to explain this?" Derek asked. Where did you get that?" "Does it matter? What matters is that you're married to two people at the same time. That's called bigamy, Layla." "It's a felony." She started crying immediately. The the kind of dramatic tears that had gotten her out of trouble her entire life. Derek, please. It was a mistake. I was drunk. I didn't know what I was doing. You knew enough to hide it from me for 3 weeks. I was going to tell you. I was just waiting for the right time. When would that have been? When you filed for divorce? When you moved in with him? When exactly were you planning to mention your Vegas wedding? Layla's tears stopped abruptly. How much do you know? I know about Elliot Torres. I know about the hotel room. I know about the 17 voicemails he's left trying to reach you. Derek's voice was steady, controlled. I know about your plans to explore other connections while I pay for your lifestyle. You've been spying on me? I've been protecting myself, something I should have started doing a long time ago. Layla stood up, pacing around the kitchen. Look, I made a mistake, a huge mistake. But we can fix this. We can get the Vegas thing annulled. We can go to counseling. No, Derek said simply. We can't. What do you mean we can't? I'm your wife. Actually, you're Elliot's wife. Legally speaking, you and I are just two people who've been living together illegally for 3 weeks. The reality of the situation hit her like a physical blow. She sat down heavily in her chair, staring at the certificate. This is insane. People don't actually enforce bigamy laws. They do when the wronged party presses charges, Derek said, which I'm considering. You wouldn't. Try me. Layla looked at him with new eyes, as if seeing him for the first time. You're different. What happened to you? I woke up, Derek said. For 12 years, I've been a supporting character in your story. The boring husband who paid the bills while you found yourself. The dependable guy who fixed things while you broke them. But I'm done with that role. So what happens now? Now you're going to experience consequences. Real ones, starting with the fact that I've emptied our joint savings account and put it in my name only. You can't do that. I can. And I did. 50% of our assets belong to me. The other 50% belongs to the woman I married 12 years ago. Since that woman committed bigamy, I'm not sure she has any legal right to anything. Layla's face went white. You're being vindictive. I'm being smart. For the first time in years, I'm thinking about what's best for me instead of what's best for you. What about Emma? What about our family? Emma is in college. She's an adult. As for our family, you destroyed that when you married someone else. Layla was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was different, harder. You know what? Maybe this is for the best. Maybe I have outgrown this marriage. Maybe I do deserve better than someone who can't appreciate my growth. There it is, Derek said. The real you. The one who's been hiding behind all that empowerment BS. It's not BS. I've been discovering who I really am. You're discovering who you really are. You're a woman who commits infidelity and bigamy and then blames her husband for being controlling when he objects. I'm a woman who refuses to be diminished by a man who's intimidated by her success. Derek laughed, a sound with no humor in it. Your success? Layla, you have 47,000 followers on Instagram. You sell them overpriced courses about self-empowerment while living off your husband's construction business. That's not success. That's performance art. Screw you, Derek. I'm building something real, something that matters. You're building a fantasy, and now reality is going to come crashing down. Derek stood up and walked toward the door. I'm filing for divorce tomorrow. I'm also filing a motion to have you evicted from this house, since legally you're not my wife anymore. You can't kick me out of my own home. Actually, I can. This house is in my name. I bought it before we were married. And since our marriage is now invalid, you have no legal claim to it. I'll fight you. I'll get a lawyer. You'll what? Pay for a lawyer with money you don't have? Contest a case where you're clearly guilty of a felony? Derek turned back to face her. Go ahead, fight me. See what happens. The next morning, Derek was at the courthouse when it opened. He filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences and bigamy. He also filed a restraining order requiring Layla to stay away from his business and personal property. The local news picked up the story by noon. Phoenix woman charged with bigamy after Vegas wedding ran on 3 different channels. Layla's Instagram followers discovered the story and began commenting on her posts. Is this true? One follower wrote. Did you really marry someone else while married to your husband? This is so disappointing, wrote another. I thought you were about authentic living, not deceiving your family. By evening, Layla had lost over 10,000 followers. The comments on her posts were brutal. Women who had idolized her for her courage and authenticity now saw her as a fraud. Derek watched it all unfold from his office, feeling a satisfaction he hadn't experienced in years. But this was just the beginning. The real destruction was about to start. Elliot Torres arrived in Phoenix 3 days later, driving a beat-up Honda Civic and carrying everything he owned in 2 duffel bags. He was thin and nervous, with the kind of desperate energy that came from being broke and running out of options. Derek's private investigator had been tracking him since Vegas, so Derek knew exactly when and where Elliot would try to contact Layla. The meeting happened at a coffee shop in Scottsdale, the kind of place where Layla liked to work on her laptop and be seen by her followers. Derek was sitting 2 tables away, invisible in work clothes and a baseball cap, when Elliot walked in. The man looked nothing like the confident bartender from the security footage. He was jumpy, sweating despite the air conditioning, and clearly out of his element. "Layla?" Elliot said, approaching her table. "It's me, Elliot. From Vegas." Layla looked up from her laptop, her face cycling through shock, fear, and anger in rapid succession. "What are you doing here?" "I had to see you." "I've been calling and calling." "You can't be here," Layla said, glancing around nervously. "Someone might see us." "I don't care who sees us. We're married, remember?" "That was a mistake." "A drunken mistake." Elliot sat down across from her, his voice getting louder. "It wasn't a mistake for me. That night was the best night of my life. I thought we had something real." "Keep your voice down," Layla hissed. "Look, I'm sorry if you got the wrong idea. But what happened in Vegas was just a moment of weakness." "A moment of weakness? You told me you loved me. You said you were going to leave your husband and start a new life." Derek leaned forward, making sure his phone was recording every word. "I was drunk," Layla said. "I wasn't thinking clearly. But the connection we had, there was no connection?" "You were a bartender. I was a customer, that's all." Elliot's face crumpled. "That's not true. You said I was different. You said I understood you in a way your husband never did. I say a lot of things when I'm drunk." "So this is it? You're just going to pretend I don't exist? I'm going to get our marriage annulled, and we're both going to move on with our lives." "What if I don't want to move on? What if I want to fight for what we have?" Layla's patience snapped. "We don't have anything. You're a loser bartender from Vegas who can't take a hint. Leave me alone or I'll call the police." Elliot stood up, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. "You know what? You're right. I am a loser. But you're a liar. And a cheat. And you're going to get what's coming to you." He stormed out of the coffee shop, leaving Layla sitting alone with her laptop and her shame. Derek waited 5 minutes, then followed her out to the parking lot. "Layla," he called out. She turned around, and Derek could see the fear in her eyes. "Were you following me?" "I was getting coffee. Couldn't help but notice the commotion." Derek held up his phone. "That was interesting. Want to explain who that was?" "It was nobody. Just some guy who's been bothering me." "Some guy? Or your husband?" Layla's shoulders sagged. "Derek, please, I'm trying to handle this quietly." "Quietly? You mean you're trying to cover it up?" "Again, I'm trying to protect our family from embarrassment." "Our family? We don't have a family anymore, remember? You destroyed that." "Stop saying that. I made a mistake, but we can fix this." "No, we can't, because you're still lying." "Even now, even after everything, you're still lying." Derek played back the recording of her conversation with Elliot. Her voice was clear and cruel. "You're a loser bartender from Vegas who can't take a hint." "You told him you loved him," Derek said. "You told him you were going to leave me and start a new life." "Which means everything you've been telling me about it being a drunken mistake is BS." Layla started crying again, but this time the tears looked real. "I was confused. I thought I wanted something different, but I was wrong." "You were wrong about what? About loving him? About leaving me? About wanting a different life?" "All of it. I was wrong about all of it." "No, you weren't. You were wrong about getting caught." Derek walked back to his truck, leaving Layla standing in the parking lot. But he wasn't done, not even close. That night, Derek uploaded the audio recording to a file-sharing site and sent anonymous links to 3 entertainment blogs that specialized in influencer drama. The story exploded across social media within hours. Empowerment coach caught calling secret husband a loser went viral on Twitter. The recording was shared thousands of times, with users commenting on Layla's cruelty and hypocrisy. "This is the woman teaching us about authentic living," one user wrote. "She's a fraud. The way she talked to that man was disgusting," wrote another. "No wonder her real husband is divorcing her." By morning, Layla had lost another 15,000 followers. The brands that sponsored her Instagram posts began pulling their contracts. The confidence coach who had been mentoring her issued a statement distancing herself from Layla's personal choices. Derek's phone rang at 6 a.m. It was Emma. "Dad, what's happening?" "Mom's crying and screaming and throwing things around the house." "Where are you?" "I drove down from Tucson last night. I'm at Mom's apartment." Emma's voice was shaky. "Dad, she's not okay." "She's talking about eliminating herself." Derek felt a chill run down his spine. "Is she serious?" "I don't know. She's been drinking and she's not making sense. She keeps saying you've ruined her life and that everyone hates her now." "I'm coming over." "No," she said, "if she sees you, she'll call the police and say you're stalking her." Derek closed his eyes. Even in her breakdown, Layla was still manipulating the situation. "Emma, I need you to listen to me carefully. Your mother is not going to hurt herself. She's too narcissistic for that. But she is going to try to use this situation to make me look like the bad guy." "How can you say that? She's falling apart." "She's falling apart because she's finally facing consequences for her actions." "That's not the same thing as being suicidal. You're being cold, Dad. Really cold." "I'm being realistic. Your mother has been lying to both of us for months. She married another man and hid it from her family. She's been planning to leave me while living in my house and spending my money. Now that she's been exposed, she's playing the sufferer." "But what if you're wrong? What if she really does hurt herself?" Derek was quiet for a moment. "Then that's her choice. But I'm not going to let her use emotional blackmail to avoid responsibility." "I can't believe you're saying this. Emma, I love you. But I'm not going to let your mother drag me down with her. If she wants help, she can get professional help. But she's not going to use self-destruction threats to manipulate me into taking her back." "Fine. But if something happens to her, I'll never forgive you." Emma hung up, leaving Derek staring at his phone. He'd known this moment would come. Layla would eventually turn their daughter against him, painting herself as the sufferer and him as the villain. But Derek had been preparing for this too. He drove to Emma's college in Tucson, arriving at her dorm room that evening with a box of documents. Bank statements, credit card bills, phone records, and social media screenshots. Everything he'd been collecting for weeks. Emma opened the door reluctantly. "Dad, I told you I don't want to talk." "I know, but I need you to see something before you decide who to believe." Derek set the box on Emma's desk and pulled out a stack of papers. "These are the credit card statements from these last 6 months. Look at the charges." Emma reluctantly examined the documents. Her expression changed as she read. $500 at a spa? $300 for a single dinner? $800 for a purse? Keep reading. $2,000 for a life coaching intensive? Dad, this is insane. Where was she getting this money? From our joint account. Money I earned working construction while she was discovering herself. Derek pulled out more documents. These are her text messages with her sister. Look at this one from 2 weeks before Vegas. Emma read the message aloud. "I'm so tired of pretending to be happy. Derek is a good man, but he's boring. I need excitement. I need passion. I need someone who sees me as more than just a wife and mother." "And this one," Derek said, showing her another message. "From the night she came back from Vegas." Emma's voice was smaller now. "I did something crazy in Vegas. Something that could change everything. But I feel alive for the first time in years. I don't know if I can go back to my old life." Your mother wasn't confused, Emma. She wasn't making drunken mistakes. She was planning to leave me and take half of everything I'd worked for. Emma sat down heavily on her bed. "Why didn't you show me this before?" "Because I hoped she'd come to her senses. I hoped she'd realize what she was throwing away and make better choices. But she didn't. No, she doubled down. She kept lying, kept spending money, kept building her online persona while planning her exit strategy." Emma was quiet for a long time. "What happens now?" "Now she faces the consequences. The divorce will be finalized in 60 days. She'll have to find her own place to live and her own way to support herself. What about her Instagram thing? Can't she make money from that? Derek pulled out his phone and showed Emma the latest numbers. She's down to 18,000 followers. Most of her sponsors have dropped her. The life coach she was working with has cut ties. Her brand is toxic now. So she's going to end up with nothing. She's going to end up with exactly what she earned through her choices. Emma stared at the documents spread across her desk. I feel sorry for her. You can feel sorry for her. But don't mistake pity for obligation. Your mother is an adult who made adult decisions. She doesn't get to escape the consequences just because they're unpleasant. Are you happy about this? About destroying her life? Derek considered the question seriously. I'm not happy about it, but I'm not sorry about it either. For 12 years, I put her needs before my own. I sacrificed and compromised and bent over backward to make her happy. And in return, she betrayed me in the most fundamental way possible. So this is revenge? This is justice. There's a difference. Emma walked Derek to his truck, her arms wrapped around herself despite the warm evening. Dad, are you going to be okay? I'm going to be fine, better than fine. For the first time in years, I'm free to make decisions based on what's best for me. What about us? What about our relationship? Derek hugged his daughter tightly. That's up to you. I love you no matter what. But I'm not going to pretend your mother is a sufferer just to keep the peace. I understand. I think. You will. Someday you'll understand that enabling bad behavior isn't the same as being loving. Derek drove back to Phoenix that night, feeling lighter than he had in months. The hardest part was over. Emma knew the truth. Layla's lies had been exposed. The divorce was proceeding smoothly, but life had one more surprise in store. Derek was at the construction site the next morning when Jake Morrison ran up to his trailer, phone in hand. Boss, you need to see this. It's all over the news. Derek looked at the phone screen. The headline read, Phoenix woman arrested for bigamy after public confrontation with Vegas husband. The story included security footage from the coffee shop confrontation and details about Layla's online following. But it also included something Derek hadn't expected. Elliot Torres had been arrested too. What the hell? Derek said. Keep reading, Jake said. The guy from Vegas tried to blackmail her. He recorded their conversation and threatened to release it unless she paid him $50,000. Derek felt a cold knot form in his stomach. She didn't have $50,000. She tried to get it from her parents. When they refused, she stole jewelry from her mother and pawned it. Her dad called the police. Derek stared at the article. The situation had spiraled far beyond what he'd planned. Layla wasn't just facing divorce anymore. She was facing criminal charges for bigamy, theft, and fraud. There's more, Jake said. She's claiming you set the whole thing up, that you're the one who told the Vegas guy where to find her. That's impossible. I never spoke to him. I know that, but she's telling anyone who will listen that you orchestrated everything to destroy her. Derek's phone buzzed. A text from Emma. Dad, call me. Mom's in jail and she's saying you're responsible. Derek closed his eyes. He'd wanted justice. But this was something else entirely. Layla had self-destructed so completely that she was now facing years in prison. He called Emma back. Dad, what did you do? I filed for divorce. That's all. Everything else was her choice. The police said she stole Grandma's jewelry. Is that true? I don't know. If that's what they're saying, then probably yes. God, Dad. How did it get this bad? Your mother made choices, Emma. Bad choices that kept getting worse. I didn't force her to steal from her parents or try to pay blackmail money. But you could have stopped it. You could have helped her instead of what? Instead of letting her destroy my life along with hers? Derek's voice was firm. Emma, I spent 12 years trying to help your mother. I gave her everything I had. In return, she betrayed me and planned to take half of everything I'd built. At some point, you have to protect yourself. She's saying you planned all of this, that you knew the Vegas guy would try to blackmail her. That's ridiculous. I never spoke to him. I never told him where to find her. I never even knew he existed until after I found the marriage certificate. Emma was quiet for a moment. The police want to talk to you. Fine, I'll talk to them. I've got nothing to hide. Derek hung up and drove straight to the police station. Detective Sarah Martinez was a serious woman in her 40s who specialized in fraud cases. She met Derek in a small interview room that smelled like coffee and disappointment. "Mr. Hartwell," she said, opening a thick file, "your wife is making some serious accusations against you." "Ex-wife," Derek corrected, "and I'm not surprised. She's been making accusations against everyone except herself. She claims you hired a private investigator to stalk her. Is that true?" "I hired an investigator to gather evidence for my divorce." "That's completely legal." "She also claims you somehow orchestrated the blackmail attempt by Mr. Torres." "That's impossible. I never spoke to the man. I didn't even know he was coming to Phoenix until he showed up." Detective Martinez pulled out several documents. "We've been investigating Mr. Torres. He's been running this scam for 2 years. He targets married women who get drunk at his bar, convinces them to go through a wedding ceremony, then follows them home and demands money." Derek felt his stomach drop. "Are you saying this whole thing was a setup from the beginning?" "We're saying Mr. Torres is a professional con artist who saw your wife as an easy mark. The question is whether you knew about his pattern of behavior when you hired your investigator." "I had no idea. My investigator told me Torres had gambling debts and multiple failed marriages, but nothing about a blackmail scheme." "We'll need to verify that with your investigator." Derek provided Sandra Chen's contact information and agreed to take a polygraph test. He also turned over all his files and recordings to prove he hadn't conspired with Torres. The polygraph results came back clean. Sandra Chen's records showed she'd only done basic background research on Torres, with no indication of criminal activity. The detective's investigation confirmed that Derek had been an unwitting participant in Torres's elaborate scam. But the damage was done. Layla's arrest had made national news. Her story had all the elements of a perfect scandal: social media influencer, bigamy, blackmail, and family destruction. Cable news shows picked up the story, with talking heads debating everything from the dangers of social media to the breakdown of traditional marriage. Derek found himself at the center of a media storm he never wanted. Reporters showed up at his construction sites. His employees were maltreated by photographers. His quiet life had become a public spectacle. The worst part was Emma's reaction. She'd seen the news coverage and decided that Derek was somehow responsible for everything, even though the police had cleared him of any wrongdoing. "You started this," she said during a tense phone call. "Maybe you didn't plan the blackmail thing, but you exposed Mom's secrets because you wanted revenge." "I exposed her secrets because she was lying to me," Derek replied. "What was I supposed to do?" "Pretend it never happened." "You could have handled it privately. You didn't have to humiliate her in front of the whole world." "Emma, I filed for divorce, that's all. Everything else happened because your mother kept making bad decisions. You recorded her private conversations. You hired a spy to follow her around. You leaked audio to gossip websites. I protected myself with evidence. And I never leaked anything to websites. That was Torres trying to pressure her into paying him." "I don't believe you." "Then ask the police. Ask the FBI. They've been investigating this for weeks. They have Torres's phone records, his computer files, everything. I had nothing to do with the blackmail." But Emma had already made up her mind. Derek was the villain in her story, the father who destroyed her mother's life out of spite and jealousy. Derek tried to focus on his work, but the construction business was suffering. Several clients had canceled contracts, worried about being associated with the scandal. His employees were loyal, but they were also concerned about their jobs. "Maybe you should take a vacation," Jake suggested one afternoon. "Let this whole thing blow over." "I'm not running away," Derek said. "I didn't do anything wrong. I know that. But sometimes being right isn't enough." Derek was still considering Jake's advice when his lawyer called with an update on the divorce proceedings. "Good news and bad news," Mitchell Price said. "The good news is that the divorce will be finalized next week. Layla's attorney wants to settle quickly to avoid more publicity." "What's the bad news?" "She's agreed to a settlement that gives you everything. The house, the business, all assets except her personal belongings. She's also waiving any claim to spousal support." Derek frowned. "Why is that bad news?" "Because it makes you look like you got everything you wanted. The media narrative is going to be that you destroyed your wife's life and walked away with all the money. But that's not what happened. I know that, but public perception doesn't always match reality." Derek thought about it for a moment. Well, what's she getting out of this? She's getting a quick, quiet divorce that keeps her criminal case separate from the civil proceedings. Her attorney thinks if she can show she's cooperating and taking responsibility, she might get a lighter sentence. How light? 18 months, maybe 2 years. With good behavior, she could be out in 10 months. Derek hung up feeling hollow. Layla would serve less time than many people got for drunk driving, and somehow he was still the villain in the story. The final divorce hearing was scheduled for a Thursday morning in late April. Derek arrived at the courthouse early, hoping to avoid the media circus that had surrounded previous hearings. He was walking up the courthouse steps when a voice called out behind him. "Derek Hartwell?" Derek turned to see a young man with a microphone and a camera crew. "I'm Jason Chen from Channel 12 News. Can you comment on the allegations that you orchestrated your wife's downfall?" "No comment," Derek said, continuing up the steps. "Don't you think the public deserves to know the truth about what really happened?" Derek stopped and turned around. "The truth? The truth is that my wife committed bigamy and tried to cover it up with lies and manipulation. The truth is that she stole from her own parents to pay blackmail money to a con artist. The truth is that every choice she made was her own." "But you recorded private conversations." "I protected myself with evidence. Something any reasonable person would do when their spouse is lying to them." "What about your daughter?" "She said publicly that you destroyed her family." Derek felt a flash of anger. "My daughter is 20 years old, and she's been lied to by her mother for months. She'll figure out the truth eventually." "Do you have any regrets about how this played out?" Derek considered the question. "I regret that it came to this. I regret that my wife chose deception over honesty. I regret that my daughter has been hurt by her mother's choices. But I don't regret protecting myself." Inside the courthouse, Derek sat alone at the plaintiff's table. Layla arrived 15 minutes later, flanked by her attorney and wearing an orange jumpsuit. She looked thin and tired, her famous confidence completely gone. The hearing itself took less than 10 minutes. The judge reviewed the settlement agreement, confirmed that both parties understood the terms, and granted the divorce. Derek was officially a free man. As they were leaving the courthouse, Layla's attorney approached Derek. "My client would like to speak with you privately," she said. Derek looked across the hallway at Layla, who was standing near the elevators with her head down. "What about—" "She wants to apologize." Derek almost laughed. "Now she wants to apologize? Mr. Hartwell, my client is facing serious criminal charges. She's lost her home, her income, and her relationship with her daughter. She's hit rock bottom. Good. Maybe she'll learn something from it. Don't you think you've punished her enough?" Derek stared at the attorney. "I haven't punished her at all. I've simply refused to enable her behavior." "There's a difference." "She's talking about self-destruction again. She says she has nothing left to live for." "Then she should get professional help." "That's not my responsibility anymore." Derek walked to the elevators, leaving Layla and her attorney behind. But as the elevator doors opened, Layla called out to him, "Derek, please." "Just give me 2 minutes." Against his better judgment, Derek held the elevator door. Layla approached slowly, her handcuffs clinking with each step. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I'm sorry for everything." "Okay, that's it? Just okay? What do you want me to say, Layla? That I forgive you, that we can be friends, that I'll visit you in prison? I want you to understand that I never meant for any of this to happen. You never meant to get caught." "That's different." Layla's eyes filled with tears. "I was lost. I was confused. I thought I wanted something different, but I was wrong." "You were wrong about getting away with it. Don't you have any compassion left? Any love for the woman you married?" Derek looked at her for a long moment. "The woman I married died in Vegas. You're someone else now, someone I don't recognize." "That's not true. I'm still me. I'm still the mother of your child. Emma made her choice. She chose to believe your lies over my evidence. That's on both of you." The elevator doors started to close. Derek made no move to stop them. "Derek, please," Layla called out. "I need help. I need—" The doors closed, cutting off her voice. Derek drove home to his empty house, feeling nothing. No satisfaction, no regret, no anger, just a profound sense of completion. The next morning, Derek was having coffee on his back porch when his phone rang. It was Emma. "Dad, I saw the news coverage of the hearing. I saw what Mom looked like." "Okay." "She looked horrible. Broken. She is broken. She broke herself. I keep thinking about what you said, about choices and consequences. Derek waited. I found some of Mom's old journals when I was cleaning out her apartment. She wrote about planning to leave you months before Vegas. She wrote about researching divorce lawyers and figuring out how to hide money. I'm sorry you had to see that. No, you're not. You wanted me to know the truth. I wanted you to make informed decisions instead of emotional ones. Emma was quiet for a moment. I think I understand now. What you did. Why you did it. Do you? You didn't destroy Mom's life. You just stopped protecting her from herself. That's exactly right. I'm sorry I blamed you. I'm sorry I said those things. You were hurting. You wanted someone to blame. Are we okay? You and me? Derek smiled for the first time in weeks. We're okay. Can I come see you this weekend? I want to hear your side of everything. The real story. I'd like that. After Emma hung up, Derek sat on his porch for a long time watching the sun rise over the desert. His phone buzzed with notifications. More news stories, more social media posts, more people weighing in on his personal business. He turned off the phone and went inside. 3 months later, Derek was back to working full-time at the construction company. The media attention had died down, and most of his clients had returned. Jake Morrison had been promoted to partner, and they'd hired 6 new employees. Derek's personal life was quieter but more peaceful. He'd started dating a teacher named Rebecca who had no interest in social media or drama. They took things slowly, both understanding the value of building something real rather than chasing excitement. Emma visited regularly, and their relationship was stronger than it had been in years. She'd graduated college with honors and landed a job at an engineering firm in Denver. She'd also started seeing a therapist to work through the trauma of her parents' divorce. Layla had been sentenced to 18 months in prison, but was released after 10 months for good behavior. She'd moved to California to live with her sister and was working as a waitress while trying to rebuild her life. Her Instagram account had been deleted, and she'd given up on the influencer dream entirely. Derek rarely thought about her anymore. One evening in late fall, Derek was leaving a hardware store when he saw a familiar face in the parking lot. It was Elliot Torres, loading boxes into a rental truck. Torres saw Derek and froze, clearly debating whether to run or fight. Derek walked over to him. Elliot. Derek, I wasn't expecting to see you here. Moving away? Yeah. Back to Vegas. My lawyer got me a plea deal. Probation instead of prison time. Derek nodded. Good for you. Torres looked confused. You're not angry? Why would I be angry? You did me a favor. I destroyed your marriage. My marriage was already destroyed. You just made it obvious. Torres stared at him. I don't understand. You're a con artist, Elliot. You prey on unhappy women who are looking for an escape. My wife was looking for an escape. If it hadn't been you, it would have been someone else. But she's in prison because of what I did. She's in prison because of what she did. You didn't force her to marry you. You didn't force her to lie about it. You didn't force her to steal from her parents. Torres was quiet for a moment. I heard you got everything in the divorce. I got what was mine to begin with. And you're okay with how it all turned out? Derek considered the question. I'm better than okay. I'm free. Torres finished loading his truck and climbed into the driver's seat. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I know I messed up a lot of lives. You revealed who people really were. Sometimes that's necessary. Derek watched Torres drive away, then got in his own truck and headed home. Rebecca was cooking dinner, and they'd planned to watch a movie afterward. Simple pleasures, honest companionship, real connection. Everything Layla had been searching for was right there in front of her all along. She'd just been too busy performing authenticity to recognize the real thing. Derek's phone buzzed with a text from Emma. Hey, Dad, just wanted to say I love you. Thanks for teaching me that actions have consequences. Derek smiled and put his phone away. He'd learned something important over the past year. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable someone's self-destruction. Sometimes the kindest choice is the hardest one. Sometimes letting people face the consequences of their actions is the only way they can learn to make better choices. Derek had spent 12 years trying to save Layla from herself. In the end, The only person he could save was himself, and that was enough. As Derek pulled into his driveway, he saw Rebecca waiting for him on the front porch, wearing one of his old construction company t-shirts and holding 2 glasses of iced tea. She waved and smiled, and Derek felt a warmth in his chest that he hadn't experienced in years. This was what real love looked like. Not the desperate passion Layla had craved, not the social media performance she'd mistaken for connection, but quiet consistency and mutual respect. Derek had built a new life the same way he'd built houses, with careful planning, honest materials, and attention to detail. It wasn't flashy or exciting, but it was solid. It would last. Behind him, his old life was nothing but rubble and bad memories. Ahead of him was everything he'd ever really wanted: peace, honesty, and someone who loved him for who he was rather than who she wanted him to become. Derek Hartwell had learned the hardest lesson of all. Sometimes you have to destroy everything to save what matters most, and sometimes the person you're really saving is yourself.